The graphic and disturbing account of sexual assault against writer E. Jean Carroll has been confirmed by two contemporaneous witnesses to the account. Two friends of Carroll's who she confided in at the time of the alleged attack from Donald Trump in a dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman's speak exclusively to New York Times reporter Megan Twohey on the Times podcast The Daily. Listen.
And I said, my face just did it. What? He raped you? Oh, and you said, he kept pulling down, he pulled down my tights.
And Lisa was emphatic. She said, what you're describing is a rape, and you should go to the police.
It was horrible. We fought. And I said, let's go to the police. No. Come to my house. No, I want to go home.
Right.
I'll take you to the police. No. It was 15 minutes of my life. It's over. Don't ever tell anybody. I just had to tell you.
E. Jean, while I think at this point had stopped laughing, was not seeing this within a criminal framework.
It was an episode. It was an action. It was a fight. It was not a crime. It was, I had a struggle with a guy.
Well, you did, probably.
Oh, yeah, I know I did. Oh, advise you, fabulous. Lingerie, great. The store, it was getting better and better. It was getting better and better.
So you felt responsibility for what had happened?
100%.
The president denied Carroll's allegations, saying that E. Jean Carroll isn't his type. Joining us now, Megan Twohey, investigative reporter for the New York Times. You have done such a service with this reporting and today's Daily. I read most of the book. I saw most of E. Jean's appearances, and there is no stereotypical way to be a victim of sexual assault or rape, as her friend describes this account. But there's something that you uncover in these interviews that is so personal to her. She doesn't want to call it a rape, that makes the account confusing to the reader. Just take us through what E. Jean described to you, what that attack sounded like to you, and what her friends, the impact of her friends who corroborated hearing this account at the time.
That's right. Well, first of all, I don't think that you're alone. I think that there have been people who, since this account first emerged last Friday, have been a little confused and not sure what to make of it. You know, most of the women who have come out with allegations against Donald Trump did so during the presidential race in 2016. Mm-hmm. They wanted to help inform the public, inform voters. That's not the case here with E. Jean. This is an account among many that are in this book that's going to be coming out on July 2nd, this Tuesday. She says, she said she didn't want to speak up during the presidential race. As she tells it, she hasn't spoken about this alleged attack since it happened in the mid-90s. Mm-hmm. But what happened in 2017 is that she decided, she's this long-term advice columnist for Elle magazine, and she decided that she was going to, after getting countless messages from readers over the years, which always seem to come back to the problem of men, she decided she was going to head out on the road and she was going to go to towns named after women, and she was going to get out of her car and she was going to talk to people about, she was going to ask the women, why do we need men? I've been listening to the complaints for so many years. Why do we need men? What's the case for men? But what happened is, as she was on this road trip, the Harvey Weinstein story broke, and the Me Too movement really ignited. And she said that, so by day she was interviewing people, by night she was getting flooded with messages from, Elle readers and others who were seeking her advice because they were having their own reckonings about sexual assault and harassment, and that she, for the first time in her life, said, I need to have my own personal reckoning about this. And so she actually sat down and started to make a list of hideous men she had encountered, actually including boys going back to childhood in which she had encountered bad behavior, including Donald Trump. And so that was the first time, and it sort of gets folded into this book. It's it's part of an 11-page chapter in a book. This is not a big tell-all. She didn't get a lot of money for this book. And yet this book is coming out. There was an excerpt that came out in New York Magazine. This allegation of an encounter with Trump in the mid-90s in Bergdorf's, in which she says they sort of bumped into each other, had a playful banter that led to the lingerie room of the lingerie changing room, at which point he pushed her up against the wall and pulled down her tights and penetrated her. And she fled the room, fought back, fled the room. And when she was outside, picked up the phone and called one of two friends that she says she told in those following days.
And within 3 days, she calls a second friend. You interview both of them. Just as someone who's covered Weinstein, you're just back from Buckley, right?
That's right.
Weinstein?
Yeah.
We're glad you're back. What is the impact of someone who can corroborate an account at the time?
Right. So I think, once again, so she comes out with her account of what happened in an excerpt of this book that's going to be coming out. And one of the things that was not clear, I mean, she says that there weren't any witnesses. There's no hard evidence. This is really a he said, she said. Trump's claiming he's never met her. This didn't happen. She's not his type, which is one of his common responses in the face of these allegations. And so what you're doing as reporters, I've reported on a lot of these types of stories, is that you're then looking, okay, well, did you tell anybody else at the time? Were there any people to whom you reported this, whether it was the authorities or friends or family? And if so, we got to talk to them. And so these two women are included as kind of corroborators, unnamed corroborators in the book, and had been doing that on the phone to reporters who had been covering the story. But over the past week, I and my colleagues at the New York Times really press forward with a case of saying it's very important for you to come out with your own names and recall your recollections of what happened when you received these reports of this alleged attack. And that's what happened yesterday in a sit-down interview with the two of the women.
And part of the reason you might have been in that situation, I mean, we were in that situation as well, is that the way she talked about it, and again, there is no right way to talk about being a victim of sexual assault, but I wonder, I mean, your paper became part of the story by putting out a statement saying we haven't yet been able to corroborate the account that E. Jean offers. You went out and did that reporting, and what you present today, is it, in your view, a credible account of sexual assault?
I think that what we have today is a lot more information through which people can assess the credibility of this accusation. I think you've now got two friends. These are all long-term professional women in New York. They were in the media circles in New York in the sort of heyday of New York media.
It's
in
my
the 90s.
favorite part of the Daily is listening to the three of them talk about I mean, they were trailblazers in every way.
That's
as
right.
Women in media. They were so proud, and it's not unrelated to E. Jean's unwillingness to describe herself as a rape victim.
Well, that's right. I think that there are many women, especially in this Me Too era, who have, especially in the last year and a half, come out and said, I'm a survivor of sexual assault, I'm a survivor of rape, I stand with survivors. She does not frame herself that way. She says that she actually says that at the time of the attack, she felt like it was her fault, that she made the mistake of going into this dressing room with him as they were kind of playfully challenging the other person to try on lingerie, and that while her attitudes of that have shifted, she no longer blames herself today. She still is reluctant to frame this as a rape, which I think is something else that people have found confusing. That if you look at the details of that she describes of her encounter with Trump in this dressing room, forced penetration without consent. That is a rape, and it's the most serious allegation of sexual misconduct against the president to date. And yet she will not call it a rape. She says it was a fight, and I don't want to be painted, I don't want to be categorized as a victim in damaged goods. And this is one among many stories that I've included in my book.
I don't want to gloss over this, because I think what you just said is so central to this story. What she describes, the act, regardless of what she wants to call it, every criminal code describes what happened to her as a rape. She gives an answer, though, for why she didn't tell her story during the campaign. She says what? I mean, she says it to you.
Right. So she says that I mean, this was a question. I think that listen, you may have decided in telling, and these conversations, the first friend that she called said, this is a rape, you should go to the police. She said, no, I'm not going to do that. And please don't tell anybody. I just had to tell one friend. And then she actually tells another friend who says, listen, I think it's probably best to keep this quiet. Trump's pretty powerful. And so she kept quiet, and there you can understand that. But one of my first questions was, why didn't you speak up during the 2016 race? There were all these other women coming out. There was the Access Hollywood tape, and as she tells it, she felt like the women who were coming out actually. the way that that played out actually was helping Donald Trump, that it was, at least among some of his supporters, making him look strong and commanding, and she didn't feel like she was going to make anything better by wading into the public debate at that time.
It's an appalling concept, but the fact that he won suggests that she's not all wrong in her analysis of human nature. It's an extraordinary episode of The Daily. Everyone should go listen to it. You have some more reporting coming out.
Well, and I have two colleagues, Alexandra Alter and Jessica Bennett. We've been doing reporting on this particular allegation, and so I think there's going to be more coming from the New York Times soon.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.